Hello, everyone. My name is Deshauna Barber. I'm president and CEO of Service Women's Action Network. I am so incredibly excited to be with you all in the month of February to be able to provide as much information and content as possible that we're able to offer you all as a resource. Today, we have a very special presentation by Chelsea Roberts of the Veterans Consortium Pro Bono program. Chelsea manages TVC's Women Veterans Legal Assistant Program and is currently an Equal Justice Works Fellow sponsored by Lockheed Martin Corporation. Before we get into your presentation, Chelsea, can you tell us a little bit just about yourself and what it is that you do?
Yeah, of course. So I am an attorney, like you said, at the Veterans Consortium, and my main goal is to provide a space and information for women veterans so they can get the services and resources they need. So I run a legal advice and referral clinic for women veterans in DC, Maryland, Virginia. And then also one of my favorite parts of my job is to help women veterans with their claims for service connection for disability compensation. I particularly help those who are survivors of military sexual trauma so we can make sure they get the benefits that they are entitled to.
That's amazing. And I think that that's one of the bigger issues that we do have. We have a lot of women that not only experience some of their worst traumas during their time serving, but they also are not able to get that disability and that reimbursement that they deserve. And even if they do, they don't really know where to start. So it's really awesome that we have you here in your organization that you're representing that can really just showcase the women that you are a resource, and there are some things available to them, and we're just here to help them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make you the host, and you are going to share your screen, and we're going to dive right on into this really awesome presentation.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so just to start off, like Deshauna said, my name is Chesley. I'm an attorney at the Veterans Consortium. And so at TVC, we recognize that when veterans have unique legal issues and may experience barriers when it comes to trying to access those resources and gain assistance. So our goal of the women's program is to become a place where women can seek out the resources that they need. So today in particular, I'm going to be talking about a couple of resources that are available to you as a woman veteran. And my goal of this presentation is to help inform you about how to file for disability compensation, but I also hope it empowers you to go out and file so you can get the resources and the benefits you are deserving of. So just a little quick agenda. I'm just start off talking about who we are at the Veterans Consortium and how we can assist you. We do have a couple of different programs in addition to our women's program. To start off with talking about applying for a discharge upgrade, filing for VA disability compensation. I'm going to do a little bit of specific information for claims for conditions related to military sexual trauma. Then because it is February, I'm going to close it out with celebrating Black History Month and focusing on Black women veterans. And then I will provide my contact information as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. So at the Veterans Consortium, we believe that our veterans, our nation's defenders, deserve the care, benefits, and compensation that they were promised and the best legal services free of charge to meet their challenges. So the Veterans Consortium is a leading nonprofit organization. It has provided pro bono representation in federal venues to veterans, their families, and caregivers and survivors since 1992. And during that time, we have helped over 60,000 individuals and taken over 6,000 cases and have trained over 5,000 attorneys. So our main line of service is that we facilitate pro bono representation in federal venues to qualifying veterans, their families, and caregivers and survivors for VA disability compensation. So we can facilitate the representation if you're appealing your claim to the Court of Appeals for veterans claims. This is usually after being denied about 2 or 3 times. And we also can facilitate representation if it goes beyond the Court of Appeals for veterans claims to the Federal Circuit or Supreme Court. We can also facilitate pro bono representation if your case has been remanded back to the board. So you already had your case at the court and now it's being remanded, being sent back down to the Board of Veterans Appeals. We also have a discharge upgrade program, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in detail. But we can facilitate pro bono legal services for qualifying discharge upgrades before the discharge review boards and the board for correction of military records.
Hey, Chelsea, one question for you. So what are the primary reasons why women veterans are denied during their appeals process?
It can be a couple different reasons. I think probably the main reason is that there's not that in-service evidence. So I'll get to the requirements for VA disability compensation in a few minutes, but the second requirement is you have to show evidence that the event, injury, or condition was a result of your service. You have to show there's something in your service records that caused that event, or there's something documented in your service record that you hurt your knee or you hurt your shoulder or something. So if you don't have that in-service record, that can be tricky to get overcome, but not impossible.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
So in a couple other programs is we have legal advice and referral clinics for veterans in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. Then we have our women's program that I've already talked about. And we can also help veterans who are filing for applications to become citizens through their military service. So a little bit about discharge upgrades. So our program provides legal representation to individuals who receive less than honorable discharges for conduct related to PTSD, traumatic brain injuries, military sexual trauma, homosexuality, or other mitigating factors. So if you're looking to apply for an upgrade or your discharge, there's two different boards you could apply to. So if you have been discharged for less than 15 years, you're going to apply to the discharge review board. And if you've been discharged for more than 15 years, you're going to apply to the board for correction of military or naval records. And that is a strict 15 years. So when you do apply, there's going to be an application you have to fill out, depending on if you're going to the DRB or the BCMR. There's an application for you to fill out a form, and you're going to have to argue why your discharge was either an error or improper or an injustice or inequitable. That's to be the most important piece of your application, is to show why you are deserving of a higher upgrade. So if you're in our program, one of the things our volunteer attorneys do is we write a brief that supports your claim. We gather your records, we'll get a personal statement from you and put it all together to show the boards why you are deserving of a discharge upgrade. But if you are doing it on your own, one thing you want to make sure you do is write a personal statement so you can really show what happened in service. If you had any misconduct, you can explain why a misconduct happened. You can explain the incident that happened to you, and you can explain how that's changed your behavior, how that affected the way you work. And you also want to talk about how you are today as a person, that you want to talk about how you're working now, if you're doing volunteer services, anything like that, to show that the misconduct that you had while you're in service is not who you are today. And also want to point out, if you applied before and you did not receive the upgrade that you are looking for or that you deserve, you may be able to ask for reconsideration and apply again. So to ask for reconsideration, what you're going to have to do is either show that there are new policies that were not in place when you first applied that now they'll help change that outcome, or that you were not previously represented by counsel and now you have an attorney to help you, or there's new evidence that was not before the board first time you apply and there was new evidence you would like them to look at now. For reason for getting an upgrade, there's a couple of different reasons why it'd be important to get an upgrade. It could be because now with an upgrade, you can be eligible for VA benefits, and that will include medical care, disability compensation, housing assistance, employment, education benefits, and then your survivor or dependents would also get benefits. And that also can help you with employment preferences, and it will eliminate any discrimination in hiring or any of that stigma that comes with other than honorable discharge or a certain narrative reason that may be on your DD 214. And then lastly, to be recognized as a veteran and be recognized for your service and what you did. Okay. So now I'm gonna move on to VA disability compensation. So what is VA disability compensation? It's a monthly benefit paid to veterans because of their injuries or diseases that were incurred or aggravated during active military service. And this can apply to both physical and mental health conditions. So for the requirements, first you have to show that you had active military service and your discharge was not dishonorable. And then second, there's 3 elements that you have to prove. The first one's a current disability, then the second's in-service event, injury, or disease, and the last is the link between that in-service event and current disability. The VA uses the term nexus, so you may hear that term a lot as well. Okay, so for a current disability, you must present evidence showing you have a current disability that is currently affecting you. And it must be more than an injury, has to be affecting your life. And so what I mean by that is if you have a knee injury, it would be the knee injuries affecting you because now you've lost range of movement in your knee. So it's hurting your ability to walk, the ability to work, the ability to climb stairs, something like that. And the injury, oh, I'm sorry, got ahead of myself. There we go. So the second one to be an in-service event, injury, or disease. So you'll have to show there's something in service that caused that condition. And the event or cause of your disability does not have to be related to your official duties. So you could have injured your knee when you were told to jump out of a helicopter during combat, or you could have injured your knee while you were playing a game of softball on the weekend with your friends, as long as it was during a period of active military service. Then lastly, the nexus or the link. So you have to show it was a result. You have to show there's a connection between that in-service event and that condition. In most cases, you will need medical evidence showing that your disability is connected. And you can do this by getting a letter from your doctor that you're currently seeing that's treating that injury or that condition. Also, I'll talk about it a little bit more in detail, but you can also get a compensation and pension exam, and the VA will schedule you for one when you file your claim. And in that case, the examiner's main job is to look at your condition and see if it's related to your service. So a little bit about the claims process. It can be a long process. It can be hard and retriggering depending if you're filing for a PTSD claim and you're having to tell the VA about certain traumatic events that happened. But if you would like to go through this process, there's plenty of people out there to help you. So you're not alone if you would like to go through this, you can get help. But the first thing you want to do is if you're deciding that you're ready to file, first thing you want to do is file an intent to file. So the reason you want to file an intent to file is because the day the VA receives this form will be the start date for your award if your claim service connected. And you have 1 year from the intent to file to actually file the real application. So if you filed your intent to file today and then you weren't granted for a service connection until next year, your back pay can come all the way back till today if you kept with the deadlines and you kept your claim going. The second thing you want to do is start gathering your evidence. Military service records, any medical records, during service, post-service, VA doctors, private doctors, and you're going to write a personal statement. I believe a personal statement is the most important piece of evidence to add to your claim. It gives the VA a chance to know who you are, to see a full picture of the event that happened to you in service, see really how your condition is affecting you today. So I never allow one of my clients to file without having a personal statement submitted as well. So once you get all your evidence gathered and you have your personal statement ready, then you're ready to actually file the application. You're going to want to use VA form 21526EZ. So you're going to take that form, fill out all the required information, attach your personal statement, any additional evidence that you have. Make sure when you are sending evidence into the VA, you don't send them your original documents. Don't send them your original service treatment records, your original military personnel file. Send them all copies. And then when you're ready, you can submit it. You can submit it by mail, you can apply online, or you can file in person at your local regional office. Or if you have an attorney to help you out or a veteran service officer to help you out, they will file it for you on your behalf as well. So what happens after you file the claim? That's where the hard part comes. So you unfortunately just have to wait a little bit. So first thing is that the VA will receive your claim, and then it'll start to review your claim. And once they start to review it, they'll look to see if any additional evidence is needed. So they may send you a letter asking for a certain piece of evidence that they need. They may send you a letter asking for authorization to go get medical records on your behalf. So once you file, make sure you keep an eye out on your mail, because if the VA sends you a letter and they're requesting additional evidence, if you happen to miss that letter, they could go ahead and deny your claim because they did not get that additional piece of information. But once the VA realizes that it has all the evidence that it needs to make a decision, then they'll start preparing for that decision. Then they'll make their decision and you'll be notified in the mail through what is called a rating decision. The rating decision will either show that you've been granted service connection or you've been denied, and it will explain the reasons why they gave you a grant or denial. But it's important to know, if it's a denial, you have the right to appeal all denials. Or even if you got granted and you don't think it's a full grant, you think you're entitled to more, you have the right to appeal that as well. So what I mean by that is if you file for PTSD, they give you a 50% rating, but you think you are at 100%, you can file an appeal to make sure you file an appeal to see if you can get increased rating, and that won't mess up your 50% rating. There is a couple different ways to appeal. So if you're looking to appeal, I definitely suggest reaching out to either an attorney, a VSO, or someone that can talk to you about the different appeal processes and different options, because each option has its own pros and cons, and it really depends on what your claim is and what is needed in your claim. Okay, so I'm just talk a little bit about claims for post-traumatic stress disorder. So a key part of a PTSD claim is identifying and providing the VA with details of a stressor. So the stressor is going to be the traumatic event that you experienced. You must provide the VA with a personal statement describing the stressor. So as I said earlier, I think personal statements are the most important pieces of evidence to add. When it comes to PTSD, the VA does require you to write a personal statement. And they will send you a VA form with a little box that you're supposed to write everything in. I suggest that you don't use that form, just write "see attached" in that box, and then write your personal statement on your own piece of paper so you can have as much room as you need to fully tell your story. And you can also include supporting evidence when it comes to claims for PTSD. You can include buddy statements. So this can be from family and friends that have just seen the way you've changed due to that traumatic experience, or it can be someone that you served with that experienced it with you, or that you told about, or you told them about the experience. You can include any records, newspaper records, unit records, anything that will support that stressor. So claims for military sexual trauma. So MST is a subset of personal trauma, and the VA defines this as any sexual harassment, sexual assault, rape that occurs in a military setting. And this can also include being pressured or coerced in any sexual activities, being touched in a way that made you feel uncomfortable, repeated comments about your body, any threatening or unwanted sexual advances. It's important to point out, though, that MST is an experience, not the diagnosis. So as we talked about earlier, there's those 3 requirements. MST will be that number 2 requirement, the in-service event, injury, or diagnosis, but you still have to file for the condition you have, the diagnosis. Most commonly, that's PTSD, but MST can cause mental health conditions besides PTSD, like anxiety or depression, or it can also cause any physical injuries as well. But you won't receive service connection for the MST, but for the underlying condition, the mental health condition or the physical condition that you are diagnosed with. So when you have a claim that and you report that you are a survivor of MST, the VA is going to look for evidence related to MST in 2 different ways. They're going to look for evidence of the event, or evidence of behavioral changes. The VA does not require you to have reported the assault and does not require your service records to contain proof of the personal assault. So if you didn't report it, that is perfectly okay. The VA realizes a lot of people do not report their assaults. So you are still eligible and you're still able to file and get a grant of service connection without reporting it in service. So if you didn't report it, the VAs will look for markers, and that will be the behavioral changes that they'll look through your service records to see if they can find. So this will be any episodes of depression, anxiety, and the doctor wasn't able to identify a reason why you were experiencing this. If you asked for a transfer, if you started drinking more or started using drugs, any unexplained behavior, relationship issues, or any other treatments that you may have had around the trauma, but you didn't report it as assault. So I'm going to come back to the personal statement. It's really important, especially in a case for MST, to write your personal statement because you need to show the VA what happened to you, and it can be a way for the VA to see what markers they need to look for in your service records. So what you want to do with a personal statement is kind of start off with a brief summary about you. How did you act before you joined the military? Were you outgoing? Were you in a relationship? Did you have friends that you always were around? Were you in school? Why did you join the military? Then you're going to describe the stressful event or events, if more than one, in chronological order. And you want to try to be detailed as possible. A lot of cases and claims do get denied on lack of details, but if you can't remember something, that is perfectly okay. Just try to write down as much as you can remember. And then you want to describe how you changed as a result of that MST. So after you returned, did you start to isolate yourself? Did you start to experience depression, anxiety? Were you experiencing problems at work? And it could not even be problems at work. Maybe you started to excel at work because you put your energy into your work to make sure you forgot that experience. So it could be an increase in performance. That's still a behavioral change and can still be a marker. Then you want to finish your statement by describing your current symptoms. Give specific examples, and this will help the VA rater give you an accurate rating. So the compensation and pension exam, I mentioned it a little bit earlier. So you're probably will get scheduled for one. You file a claim. It's to be a VA examiner, and the purpose is to see what condition you have and is it related to your service. It's important to know that you can choose the gender of your examiner. When they call to schedule you one, just let them know that you want a male examiner or you want a female examiner. And then you're going to want to start preparing for the exam. To do this, I would start tracking your symptoms. Just get a journal, get a diary or something, and write down what symptoms that you experience every day so you can adequately tell the VA examiner how your condition is affecting you. And you just make sure to answer the question honestly. Don't hold back anything. Don't over-exaggerate anything, but you always want to tell the VA examiner how it is on your worst day, because that's what impacts you the most. So make sure you give them an adequate and accurate picture of how you are being affected by your condition every single day. You can also ask a friend or family member to go with you. I also suggest to my clients afterwards, it can be retriggering and a traumatizing moment to talk to an examiner about your experiences. So schedule a meeting with your therapist following your exam just so you can have someone to talk to, or schedule a meeting to go meet a friend, or just take some time for yourself. But this process can be very retriggering, it can be long, and it can be hard to make sure you're taking time for yourself as you're going through this. So just some common misconceptions. If you didn't report a claim for benefit, if you didn't report, you can still file. If you didn't get treatment in the military, if you haven't had treatment for years and you just decided to get treatment today, you can still file a claim. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm here at the Women's Veterans Legal Assistance Program at the Veterans Consortium. This is my contact information, and I am a VA accredited attorney, and I can assist women veterans who are filing initial claims or appealing their denials for conditions related to military sexual trauma. Okay, so in honor of February, I just want to take some time to celebrate Black History Month. So the Veterans Consortium is dedicated this month and every month to celebrating the service, contributions, and lives of Black men and women who have served our nation with distinction and honor. So I just wanted to take a few minutes and just highlight some important Black women in military who have had some amazing achievements in their careers. And so first we have Kathy Williams. She became the first documented Black woman to enlist in the U.S. Army. And even though at the time the regulations forbade the enlistment of women, she joined and was part of the Buffalo Soldiers unit. And she was not found out to be a woman until 2 years later when she was hospitalized for an injury. And then we have, at the time, Second Lieutenant Marcella A. Hayes, and she became the first Black female pilot in 1979. And I said at the time, second lieutenant, because she retired as lieutenant colonel in 2000. And then in 2004, Command Sergeant Major Evelyn Hollis became the first Black female Command Sergeant Major of a combat arms unit. And she entered into the Army during a time of great debate over whether women should serve in combat roles. So she made history by becoming the first female command sergeant of a major combat arms unit. And then we have Lieutenant General West, who became the first Black female lieutenant general and the highest ranking woman to graduate from the U.S. Military Academy. She was nominated in 2015, and she took position in 2016. So overall, women have served in every era dating back to World War I, but since about 1973, the number of women in the military has really increased. So right now, there's about 18.8 million military veterans in the United States, and about 1.6 of those are female veterans. And out of those 1.6 million female veterans, 55% of those women veterans served during the Gulf War era. And now, it's not on my slide, but I also want to point out that currently there's more Black women veterans in U.S. population than non-veteran Black women. So during the Gulf War, the women comprised 7% of the military personnel, which was the largest in U.S. women serving in the war zone in history to that point in time. And of the 35,000 women who went to Desert Storm, there was an estimated 40% of them were African American. And according to a report done in 2005, they believe that Black women see the military as providing greater opportunities and benefits than civilian labor market. So that's why a lot of them joined the military during that time. So since we were talking about service connection, I just kind of wanted to point out some of the most prevalent service-connected disabilities. Oh, I'm sorry. So there's not a lot of data. I got this data from the VA, and there's not data on Black women and what service connection issues they have. So I have data for minority veterans, and I have data for women veterans. So for minority veterans, the top conditions are to be tinnitus, PTSD, lower back pain, hearing, and limited flexion of the leg. And then for women, it's going to be PTSD, major depressive disorder, migraines, lower back pain, and removal of the uterus and ovaries. So if you want to combine both those data together, PTSD is probably one of the most common disabilities that are service connected. And according to the Department of Veterans Affairs National Center for PTSD, they found that some groups of people, including African Americans, may be more likely than white veterans to develop PTSD. And the report mentioned Vietnam veterans, and they said that this was the reason because during that time, more minority veterans were in the combat and on the front line than white veterans. And then it's also been found that Black veterans' rate of service connection for PTSD were found to be lower than other veterans. And they didn't give one reason for this, but they attributed it to the differences in mental health treatment. And there may be a less likely chance for Black veterans to get a diagnosis of PTSD. So to that, I just say, if you did get a denial, if you haven't got that diagnosis yet, go talk to an advocate, talk to a veteran service officer, talk to a doctor, because keep appealing your claim so we can get you that service connection. Okay. And there's my contact information if anyone has any questions or would like to reach out about any of our other programs.
Thank you so much for that, Chesley. I really hope that everyone really took a good picture, and when we're posting it, they can always rewind it back of your contact information. It's a lot of really great resources that you all are offering. I know that the VA is going through somewhat of a transition where they are allowing a lot of people to challenge their discharge statuses. So it is very, very, very important that anyone that has a dishonorable discharge or other than honorable discharge, that they really do consider reaching out to you for whatever reason, and being able to look into how to get those changes, because everyone that I believe that is put on the uniform deserves to be able to have their service reviewed and their experiences reviewed, to be able to make sure that for those that, had things happen to them that they could not control, that they're able to be able to get the resources that they deserve and get the disabilities back for them. So anyway, yeah, it's really, really, really great that you're able to provide that information, and that, your organization is doing that awesome work. I want to thank you so much for, really taking the time to get on with us. We are going to post this to all of our social media networks, and I'll be sure to have Victoria send you that information. But in the meantime, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your amazing Thursday, and we will be in touch.
Perfect. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.